You've mentioned that mindset and mentality has been a key area for development recently. What's your primary learning since we last saw you in this field?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I continue to explore, both as someone seeking to learn for himself and finding new material for my students. And I've come across a particularly interesting gentleman who's a trader performance coach, but he's a psychologist by training, not the Band-Aid variety, but from a performance point of view. And understanding how our brain works has suddenly become a field that I felt we needed to understand. And there's a school of thought that our brain sort of sits at the top of the pyramid and dictates everything, and it's all about mindset. And there's certain books that have put forward the notion that it's all about mindset. There is a slight element that needs to be added to that, though, because standalone, that's not entirely accurate. And we have an emotion with every single thought that we have. And there is actual biology that can sometimes dictate the emotion and can thereby manipulate the mindset. So just to give you a kind of example of what's really fascinating about that, if you are toxic, you were having a night out last night, maybe you consumed things on a scale you shouldn't have, you've had a limited amount of sleep, you got home and had a row with your spouse, and now you're hitting the trading screens later than usual and you're feeling flummoxed, rushed and late. Your mind will not be at its peak, and it will not necessarily be the thing that determines the decisions you make. So you'll feel lazier, your quality of thought, and this is being dictated actually by biology, a physical element. So understanding your state of physicality and mentality, and that will also dictate an emotion. You'll be more irritated, the phone rings, normally you're glad to speak to someone, you'll be able, you just want to keep to yourself, these kind of things. So this is emotionality and all of these elements playing a role in it. And so this particular course of study is really fascinating, and I'd certainly encourage people to investigate how mindset, biology work together. And in fact, if I can add, we often have what's known as a fight or flight response, which is provoked. And this is typically provoked, and the mindset is actually the biggest part of it. If you say summarize, the biggest part of understanding this is developing a higher level of mindfulness of self. So it's a massive self-awareness journey. So you become physically more tense in your shoulder blades, you're fastidious, you're feeling rushed, and you're breathing into just the top third of your lungs, you are already in what is known as sort of the fight or flight response. What was good from saving you from the saber-toothed tiger outside your cave some 3,000–5,000 years ago is not good for a rational, calm, mental assessment game in trading. And your mind can't differentiate between the stress provoked by an adverse P&L movement versus the saber-toothed tiger. Its responses are normally the same. So that is why often post-event you think, what was I thinking? Why did I do that trade? Why did I panic sell? Why did I chase that? Because you were in an altered state. And the development of mindfulness so that you can almost karmically come out of your head and look down on yourself and say, hang on a minute, the shoulder blades are pinched, I'm hunching up, breathe deep. And breath is one of the first things that relieves you. And this is why you find it in yoga, you find it in meditation. It's suddenly you let go. There's always time. Rarely is now the moment that requires a panic response. There's always more time than you give yourself. Calm yourself right, bring yourself right back down, rationalize, go through your normal process and drills, make your assessment, and then from a higher point in your brain, because we have this amygdala where we have this initial response which moves very quickly, which is to save you, and it's instinctive. So this is once again the saber-tooth. If you've got to get in ahead of that message, stop it and take it into the higher part of the brain and use the rational center, and that's where the quality of the decision making becomes better. This is really tough to do, and this is why people keep finding themselves in pattern repetition based events. So by developing a higher sense of mindfulness, stopping the bleeding when you start recognizing you're going into that fight or flight response is a massive learning.
So all aspects of trading we've been taught are a mental process. So how do you stop that bleeding? How do you learn these techniques?
Part of it is recognizing that it's happening, first of all. Then the breath is one of the key things to do. So you bring yourself down and do nothing. Breathe and calm yourself right down and let the tension dissipate. then assess the situation logically, and then revert to methodology and process. What typically happens is people abandon at these key moments the rational methodology and process that's there to defend them from emotive-based reactions. So recognizing, breathing, and often stand up, walk around. What tends to happen is you get a little bit mono-focused and really, blinkers on. Take a walk. Do something that gets you outdoors. And then incorporate and advance your learning in the longer run so that these events occur less often. So there's the longer term game of just always being someone who's cool. So the definition of discipline, and I really love this, the definition of discipline is the state of mind and control you retain in the high pressure moments. So your degree and ability to perform rationally under the high stress moments is the degree of your own personal self-awareness and the true trading discipline, and that adherence to methodology.